It's Raval back again today, and today we're going to be talking about the 5 most common mistakes that I see when new business owners are starting a business. So starting a business can be an exciting journey, but it's critical to know about what lies ahead. And avoiding these speed bumps and potholes that you're going to encounter can save you a lot of time, energy, and heartache. So I want to give you these 5 key elements to consider when starting your business. And if you make the right decisions now, it can save you a lot of time and heartache and hopefully put you in the best position to succeed in the future. And that's the goal, right? You want to make sure you are putting this time and energy into something that you can ideally use to support you, maybe even have a great exit, something that you can really be proud of as you build it, because it's going to take a lot of time and energy to build this and grow a successful business. So here we go. Let's get into it. So the first pitfall is choosing the wrong business structure. Okay, I see this too many times where clients come to the office and say, hey, I want to start an LLC. When I say, well, hold on. Why? Why do you want to start an LLC? Did you hear about it online? Maybe you watched a YouTube video by someone who maybe doesn't have a lot of experience in explaining what the differences are between the different business structures. It's really important you weigh the pros and cons of any business structure. Maybe you're too small. Maybe you don't even need an LLC yet. Maybe you are growing and maybe you want to have equity and a stock option plan. An LLC isn't ideal for that situation. So think about what's the right business structure for you. And that means asking yourself a number of questions like, what do you want to create? What's your exit plan? Are you going to have employees? Are you going to be providing options? Or do you want this business to kind of just be something that you generate money with and pays your bills? Or do you want it to raise money from outside investors and use that to really grow into some multi-billion-dollar business and maybe IPO one day? These are important questions to ask. And oftentimes people go in without asking those right questions. Another big question is, do you want to make an S election? An S election requires a lot of analysis, actually. It doesn't make sense for what your business is doing, because a lot of people don't recognize that when you start a C corporation, for example, and you're trying to build a technology startup, there's something called a qualified small business stock exemption. That is a super attractive element to be offering your investors. The benefit of QSBS is that in the event of a liquidity event 5 years down the line or more, now investors don't have to pay capital gains tax. This is huge. They can save millions of dollars if there's a massive exit. So you want to really provide that benefit for them and tell them, hey, you're eligible for this with a C corporation. And if you structure it wrong, they're not going to be eligible. So these are just one of the reasons why you really want to weigh what's the right business structure for you. And I have other videos talking about LLCs and other types of business entities. But the thing to consider here is just, are you asking the right questions early on when picking the right business structure? All right, let's get to pitfall number 2. Pitfall number 2 is ignoring licensing and permit requirements. Just starting an LLC or a corporation or what have you is not enough. You've got to make sure that you're compliant with local laws as well. And that often means getting a business license and also other permits. Advanced tip just for you guys who've made it this far in the video. There's a website called CalGold. CalGold is a wonderful resource where you can enter in the type of business you're setting up and it'll tell you all the different permits you need in California. It really depends on where you're located as well. So it's going to be based on what city you're in or county, but this is really important where, okay, maybe you need some fire extinguisher permit. Maybe you need a business license. Oftentimes you will need a business license. Maybe there's other permits you need that you weren't aware of based on the type of business you're starting. So this is a hugely valuable website that I highly recommend you check out before starting a business or when you start that business, because it'll give you critical information you'll need to get that business up and running. Because oftentimes people will start businesses but forget, oh yeah, I have these permit compliance issues that you need to deal with, and now that delays the start of their business significantly, costing them time and money. So remember, when you start a business, hey, choose the right business entity, of course, but also make sure you're looking at permit and licensing requirements. On to tip number 3. Tip number 3 is talking about employment laws, okay? Employment laws are one of the major areas where people get tripped up when starting a business. If you don't hire right, if you don't fire right, if you don't manage your employees while they're with you, you are going to be taking massive risks that will often bite you in the butt in the end. And the reason is that employment laws in California especially, but across the country, even nowadays, we work in a global workforce where maybe you're hiring people overseas. You've got to make sure you're compliant with all these different laws, because the last thing you want is a lawsuit from an employee who's upset because you didn't comply with their laws. And for example, in California, there are a lot of laws you have to comply with. Meal and rest break laws, there's time off laws. There's so many different rules and regulations you need to comply with. So one thing I highly suggest is have an employee handbook in place. I recently gave a talk on employee handbooks and recent changes to it. There's so many laws that apply to employees and staff it's critical that you pay attention to this when you start your company. You can't just go out and say, hey, I'm going to call you all independent contractors and call it a day. It's not going to work. You're going to probably get yourself in some serious trouble because all it takes is one upset person to really cause you a lot of problems. And there are lawyers all over the place, California and across the nation, that are ready to take these employment law cases and make your life difficult. So the more you can do right now to make sure you're hiring correctly, you are onboarding correctly, you are managing your employees correctly, and also if you let someone go, you're doing that correctly, is critical to the success of your business. Invest in this. Trust me, it is an area of massive risk, but can be of great reward if you do it right. So pitfall number 4 is contracts, okay? We're talking about not having the right contracts in place and not actually paying attention to those contracts. When you're starting discussions with people, do you have NDAs in place? When you're hiring your employees, do you have IP assignment agreements in place? When you hire contractors, are you sure the IP is yours? Contracts are the basis of most successful businesses. Everything you do in business generally needs a contract. We live in a world that's much more transitory, where people are moving around a lot more, where people maybe aren't staying in jobs as long. So yes, while it's great to build relationships, the reality is people are moving around. There's much more mobility in the workforce. So you want to make sure you have contracts in place to protect your business. What if someone runs off with their trade secrets? What if someone goes to a competitor? What are you going to do in those situations? There are critical contract terms that you need to have in all your types of agreements to make sure that you're protected. Non-solicitation agreement terms. California non-competes are not enforceable, but maybe you're in another state where they are. Do you even know if they're enforceable in your state? Those are things worth looking into. And then also, how do you just clarify what the expectations are and the roles and responsibilities? If you have an LLC, do you have a great operating agreement in place? Because I'll tell you right now, when the LLC is not doing very well and not making tons of money, it's not a big deal. But once you start making money, I've seen time and time again, people get in fights, 2-year litigation because they refuse to put an LLC operating agreement in place that will address some of the concerns between the parties. So spend time and money on that now, invest in it, make sure it's done right, and make sure everyone's on the same page, because these things will be kind of exasperated as your business grows, and those issues that started off small and maybe you didn't think were worth addressing are going to be major issues as your business grows. So address them now, work with an advisor, work with a coach to make sure that you are discussing some of these issues that maybe you think weren't as important. That's why I think it's great to have a team around you, not just the founders, but also a team of advisors, accountants, CFO, business coach, an attorney. That's a critical team for the success of any business. And if you'll see, every business that has grown to be a large business has this team around them and has a great team around them. Make sure you pay attention to your contracts, make sure the contract terms are clear, make sure you're investing in clear and concise contracts, because these are going to be the backbone of your business and critical to your success. And lastly, we get to pitfall number 5. And what's that? Intellectual property. Now, I'm sure there's other pitfalls out there, and if you have suggestions on others that I didn't mention, please put them in the comments. But pitfall number 5, talking about intellectual property, is critical. It's something dear to my heart because I practice a lot of intellectual property. I help clients with protecting their trademarks, protecting their copyrights, and I'll tell you time and time again, if you forget to get a trademark, if you forget to protect the brand name, it can cause you a lot of problems. I have a client in the cosmetics world right now who asked us to file a trademark, but didn't come to us soon enough. We said, hey, when we were filing their trademark, we said, hey, it looks like there's going to be some conflicts out here. They're like, well, we're already too far into it. We've already developed the brand. Look, we have our website that's almost up. Let's just go ahead and file it. And sure enough, they got an office action. And now we have to deal with that. They have to spend a lot of money to fight that office action. We're not even sure if we're going to be able to get around some of these other confusingly similar names. So make sure that if you're starting a business, spend some time on the branding. Think about, okay, what is a name that will work? You can always pivot in the name, but make sure you do that sooner because it's very hard to do that later. A rebrand of any company is challenging, but I'm sure you've seen it around. There was, I think it was like Apple Health or Apple Records that had a rebrand because you have this massive behemoth of Apple computers that is going to be able to pretty much corner the market of anything Apple. So think about that when you're building your business. What name makes sense? If you have patents, do you have ideas you need to protect? Filing a provisional patent is very important. Also, if you are making your invention public, recognize you only have 12 months once it's made public to actually file your patent. Otherwise, you could lose your rights. So these are all little things that could be very big things if you don't pay attention to your intellectual property. So not only is it important to remember the right business entity, employment matters, contracts, purpose and licenses, but you've got to make sure that you have your intellectual property on lockdown. And this is really important if you're going to be raising money because your investor's going to ask, what's your IP? Are there options to license this? Protecting IP and having registered IP gives you the right to actually license that now, and that's another asset of your business. So IP is a great way of building value and also protecting yourself in the future. So I can't stress this enough. When you're building your business, when you're starting out, don't forget to consider the IP. And just as a disclaimer, again, this is not legal advice. I am not your lawyer unless we are in a formal legal engagement. And even if we were, this is not how we would be discussing legal issues. We would be having a meeting that's confidential, that is protected by attorney-client privilege. All these videos are really just for your education and knowledge. I want to make sure everyone's making great decisions when they're starting the business and help you find success, because that's the most important thing. I want to see as many successful entrepreneurs as possible. I feel entrepreneurship is the backbone of our country, and it has amazing power to provide people with freedom and opportunities that working in another job might not give them. And that's it for today's video. I really appreciate you watching. Please like, subscribe. If you found this information valuable, those likes and subscribes are hugely valuable for us and helps us know that what we're providing is in fact useful for the audience, and we want to do more of it. If there's things you want to hear about, if there's things you want to see, if there are ideas you want to discuss, please drop us a comment. I love hearing the feedback. It's been hugely rewarding for me to do these videos, and I will continue to do them. I want to make sure I'm providing content that's as useful as possible to everyone out there. And we're going to keep on getting better. We're going to keep on providing more insight and hopefully help you launch your entrepreneurship journey or support you along the way. Please, again, let us know if there's anything else we can provide for you. And I sincerely appreciate you spending the time watching these videos. Keep chasing your entrepreneurial dreams. Until next time, take care.